are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this New Hampshire Partners for Healthy Schools webinar, Health, Asthma in the Indoor Environment. My name is Christian Pearsall. I am with LGC Health Trust. I will be your moderator today. I am also here with Beverly Druin and Marjorie Schoonmaker. Thank you. I was just corrected on my pronunciation a minute ago. I'm just going to get us started with a couple of tips, and then I'm going to pass it over to the presenters. First, your webinar control panel, it's probably going to be on the upper right-hand side of your screen. During the session, I suggest that you minimize that panel by clicking that orange arrow. It'll shrink to the side. Click that orange arrow again, and it's going to open back up. We will be taking questions throughout the session today. I will be monitoring those questions. So if something comes up, we'll be taking questions by text only. So if you do have a question, just type it into that box. I will be monitoring those questions throughout the session, and I'll certainly do my best to chime in and get your question answered in a timely fashion. And we'll also save some time at the end of the session if we have additional questions. One other option we have is to raise your hand. This is sort of like being in a classroom where a presenter might ask you to raise your hand. You just click on that little hand icon, and we can see who has their hand up. And I was just going to ask right now really quickly, raise your hand, so click that little icon if you have participated in a New Hampshire Partners for Healthy Schools webinar at some point in the past. So just click that arrow and or that hand, and I will let everybody know. It looks like we have only 2, so we have a lot of new folks here today, which is great. I will now pass it on to the presenters.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christian. My name is Beverly Druin, and I work at the Division of Public Health down in Concord, and I work for the New Hampshire Asthma Control Program. That program is funded by CDC, the Center for Disease Control, and I work under a program called Healthy Schools. I'm here with Marjorie today.
Good morning, afternoon, everybody. I work for the Department of Education. I work in the school building aid department. We do anything constructions on schools. I'm also part of the Partners for Healthy Schools, and you probably heard from me a couple times already.
So Marjorie and I are both partners both members of the New Hampshire Partners for Healthy Schools. The Partners for Healthy Schools is a committee. It's a group of people. We meet the 4th Tuesday of every month at the local government center. Any one of you is invited to attend any time. The 4th Tuesday of the month, local government center between 9 and 11. Everybody who's a member of the New Hampshire Partners for Healthy Schools has a common thread. Our goal is to make schools healthier and to raise awareness of the correlation between the built environment, the classroom, and the health of its occupants. So the New Hampshire Partners for Healthy Schools is going to be putting on a year-long webinar. We're here today on our second of the year-long series, and as I mentioned, all we're trying to do is to increase the awareness that people have in their understanding between the classroom or the office within the building and how it impacts the health of the students, the faculty, and the staff. So we've had our first webinar. It was in February. Heidi Pelchat did it. She's with the Asthma Control Program. It was the basics. I call it Asthma 101. You can look at this recording. It's archived on YouTube, and you can find it at this web address here. It's also archived on the New Hampshire Partners for Healthy Schools website, which you'll see the link at the end.
Also, these webinars, we have one every other month, so you guys can get a pattern of how we do these.
So today we're going to just teach all of you the basics of how the classroom breathes, how air comes into the classroom, how it goes out of the classroom, and what impacts the air within that classroom. Our next one will be on May 7th. This is a good one. We have Sandy Ree. She's the organization guru in the Laconia School District. They brought in a professional organizer last year to deal with some indoor air quality issues they had, but primarily some teachers who had been in the district a long time. We're not going to label them as hoarders, but they were some borderline hoarders, and they needed some professional expertise. So Sandy Ree and Janet Brown from Laconia are going to talk about the program that they had. They actually had a contest going and some of the tips that they use. So that's May 7th. And we'll send all of you a flyer with the link so that you can register for that one.
Let me actually chime in. What we did with this webinar is if you signed up for this webinar today, you were actually automatically signed up for the remainder of the series.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic.
you'll get reminders probably a week before and then the day before that the webinar is happening. We'll probably send you an email anyways as well from our personal address. But
And then
just a heads up.
I also send it out to the facility manager, principals, business administrators too, so to sign up people.
So there's
you know.
no excuse not to participate.
Yeah.
That's great. So these three modules, the February today and the May 7th, are leading us into what we're calling our Introduction to Tools for Schools. So without going too deep, by law here in New Hampshire,
Yep. Everybody needs to have a Tools for School kit. You don't need to use it, but you need to have a kit. So we're going to get into it, break it down, show you how it functions, the benefits you can make with them, to make it simpler than just getting a box and going, what do I do?
Yeah. So this year-long webinar series is going to take this larger task and break it down into very small bite-sized pieces. June 4th will be opening the box and identifying your IQ coordinator. The next one will be your committee. So very small tasks.
Yep.
And then there'll be a small piece of homework in between each webinar, but they're designed to be an ongoing series that you participate in so that the Tools for Schools kit, the US EPA Tools for Schools kit, is designed to provide schools the tools they need to deal with indoor air quality problems when they're small issues before they get to the business administrator level, the union level, the newspaper level.
Yep.
So it gives you the tools to deal with those at the school level. So it's June 4th is the very beginning of that. So today is Module 2 of this year-long series, and it's the classroom and its surrounding environment. We have 3 learning objectives here today. We're going to talk about what defines good air quality, where the air comes from within the classroom, and some ideas for a good classroom setup, what to do and what not to do in your
And
classroom.
number 3 is the most important one. People need to pay attention when we go to schools. This is where we find the issues.
Yes. So the first thing here, we put up a little definition of what indoor air quality is. This icon in the bottom right corner, this is the US EPA Tools for Schools icon, so you'll see it everywhere. So indoor air quality is the temperature, humidity, ventilation, and chemical and biological contaminants of the building. So indoor air quality, some of them are actually things you can measure, and some of them are perceived, what's the word I'm looking for?
I got the one earlier for you.
Yes, yeah. So I guess I think of it as people's perception
Yes.
of what's going on in their room. And people's
And how it
perception
runs.
is really a reality. So these 3 bullets here define good indoor air quality. So comfortable temperature and humidity. Humidity can't be too dry, can't be too humid.
Yep.
In New England in the winter, it is relatively impossible to keep a building humid.
And
So we have
people
very, very
always
dry
complain
buildings.
that there's always mold in the winter. There's no humidity, there's not going to be mold.
Yeah. But what happens in the winter when it's very dry, it makes it very difficult to be comfortable. We were talking to Christian earlier who's got a tickle in your throat. Well, if you're in a very dry building that has a high particulate level, you're going to have that upper respiratory irritation. Temperature, okay, how's this work? The skinny girls want it warm, the heavy girls want it cold.
Yep.
So it's very hard to make everybody comfortable. They say if you can make 75% of the population in your building comfortable, it's a success story.
50's a success.
And really, temperature is not just the temperature, it's air movement. So it can
That's-
be a good temperature, but if the teacher's under a blower and they have air movement across their skin, they're going to be uncomfortable. An adequate supply of fresh outdoor air. Well, some of the older schools have buildings that open. The room we're in here today, you can open the windows. The building I work on in Hazen Drive, there's no windows to open.
Yep. Some are sealed
So
down,
they're
shut for the
sealed.
air they have.
So they artificially bring in fresh air, but you need fresh air, whether it's from the windows or whether it's from the supplies. And then the last one's the control of pollutants from inside and outside the building. We bring pollution into the building, and then there's pollution from outside the building that comes in through the air system.
And most people think it only comes from the outside, and that's incorrect.
No, we contribute much of it ourselves. So I think of basically there's 3 ways for air to get into buildings. So some of the schools still have unit ventilators. Some of the older schools have unit ventilators. There's ceiling supplies and returns. So the room that we're in now has a ceiling supply and a small return.
And it's very, very dusty.
Yeah.
I see that.
There's a big cobweb.
I'm going to go get our facilities manager right now.
Yep. And then old-fashioned windows and doors. We've done a lot of classes and we talk about sophisticated air systems, and some of these teachers laugh at us because they're in old buildings or older wings of buildings where there's just the old-fashioned windows and doors. So
Do you find, can I ask a question, do you
Yeah.
find that there are more issues in older facilities, or is that not necessarily the case because of other issues in
I see it in the newer buildings because they don't know what it is and they put stuff on it, so it blocks the air that they need. So they use it as a storage system.
I see. And I know we'll be getting into that in a little bit.
I think some of the newer buildings, maybe there's a lack of the education.
And
on
that's a
how
big thing.
the class
You try to
works.
teach them.
Yeah. So the air is going to come into the building from one of 3 ways. So fresh air comes into the building either through the open windows, the open doorways that lead into the hallway, or some sort of mechanical supply is bringing it in from the outside.
Yep, which would be your vents and all, which we'll show shortly.
Yeah,
I
we'll
think.
talk about it. So everybody understands windows and doors, and supplies can be unit ventilators or they can be vents on your ceiling. We'll show some there too. So air supplies, I think I mentioned this. So the unit ventilators are typically mounted on the walls below the windows. Some of them can be up high in a room.
Across from them. Yeah.
And then ceiling supplies are typically connected to air ducts. So if you look up and you see the fin supply, that's where air is coming into the room. And we have some photos coming up here. So let's talk about unit ventilators first, because I think they're the most typical. They're in classrooms, they're in hotels. Every time you go to a hotel, you see a unit ventilator.
They're usually right under your windows.
Yep, they're used to heat the classroom. They can filter the outside air. They can bring in fresh air from the outside, and they maybe they have the ability to cool air.
It depends on the system you buy on that, if they're going to cool the air or not. You
Yeah.
need to look into the manufacturer of your system.
So here's an example of one. I put the arrow so it shows where the air is coming into the bottom. So the air is coming in from the bottom, it's being heated or cooled, and then it's going out the top. This is like a typical hotel room one.
And they have these in schools. The biggest problem with these is it's great to have them, but they don't work if you don't change the filters. You got to change the filters, otherwise the bad air is staying right where you are.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit later on about the things that can be trapped in these things, and it's all sorts of garbage. This is an outside photo of a school, and the unit ventilators are on the inside, but the blue arrows here are showing where the air is being brought into the classroom. Oops, I think I got rid of the little ball.
Yeah, I did
Hold
something.
on. So the blue arrows show where the air is being pulled into the building up through the unit ventilator, and then it would go into the classroom. So I wonder about these classrooms. Do you think it's a different wing of the building and that's why there's not intakes? I wonder.
I'd like to know what building this is, because I've never seen this on one of our buildings.
So if you had air intakes on this building right here, let's say that there was air intakes in this building right here, and you had all these shrubs and bark mulch and insects and chipmunks
And mold and, it's dust.
yeah, the air could not adequately be supplied to this building, into the classroom, and it would pull into the unit ventilator all this organic debris.
And you need you need fresh air to breathe the school right. The school does breathe. You just got to understand that.
Okay, so we're still on unit ventilators. Like you said, they do need to breathe. So you can't have debris that gets sucked into the unit ventilator, but it's going to get sucked in. So during the summer vacations, the unit ventilators need to be open because you're going to find in there everything. And I just gave 3 examples: melted crayons.
These are the most common ones you find.
Leaves and soils, dust and debris, but you will find everything that can fall into a unit ventilator will be in there. And so whatever's falling into the top or being pulled in from the outside, it falls down onto the heating coils, and those are where your odors come from.
Yep, and people with allergies and any of this stuff, especially with soils, with the mold and everything, it's just going to push it out into the air, and people are going to have more problems.
So the unit ventilators need to be opened at least once a year and thoroughly cleaned.
Yes.
Thoroughly cleaned. Some of these things can be triggers for asthma, but if I'm teaching or working in a classroom and I'm smelling melted crayon or melted plastic, my perception is going to be that something's wrong.
Yep.
And that, I'm not going to say I'm dying, but that something is absolutely wrong. So it's not like the melted crayon might kill you, but it certainly is offensive, and it's going to concern anybody working in that classroom. So here's a very, very typical picture, and this is it could be my desk, it could be anybody's desk. It's flush up against.
It can't be yours because you're giving this class, so I hope you're not having this desk.
So the unit ventilator is being blocked not only from the side because this computer and these stamp things are right up against it, but on the top of the unit ventilator is being blocked. So how can air get pulled into this clean air?
And underneath, you got everything against the wall here, so the air is not coming up through it and coming out.
Yeah.
You need to have a breather way about it. You know, 8 inches is good. It still can breathe.
So this person's totally blocking the circulation of this unit ventilator.
Looks like a pork chop.
It does look like a pork chop. So you'll see this a lot of times in schools. The unit ventilator flush up against the wall is a perfect bookcase, and people put plants and books and all sorts of nicky-nacky type items on this. But if you were looking at all this debris in this plant and all of that fell down inside the unit ventilator and just got crumbled up, all that's going to be airborne.
Or even if
And it's an
the
irritant.
ventilator comes on and starts blowing, it's going to blow all this loose stuff here around.
Yeah. And all that loose stuff, Marjorie, contains mold spores.
Yep.
So you put the mold spores in the unit ventilator, and if you were to have a water leak,
Best place for it to grow.
You're
It has
growing.
a nice filter there to hook
Yeah.
onto.
you're absolutely growing things at that point. Yeah. So now we're going to talk about automated air supplies. So this is if you're sitting in the room you're in, you look up at the ceiling and you see an air supply unit. You see the unit that has fins. So this is bringing air into the classroom. It has the ability to heat the air. It may have the ability to cool the air.
Again, depends on what you manufacture, what you buy.
Yep. And it does have the ability to bring in fresh air.
Correct.
So different school districts set their fresh air intakes at different levels. So the more fresh air that you're bringing into the classroom, well, that's healthy. But it's expensive because you need to temper that air. So if it's the middle of the winter, you can't be bringing 30-degree air in. You need to warm it up. Yep, that costs money. If it's summer and you have 80-degree air, you can't blow that in. You need to cool that down, and that costs money. So we know some districts, Merrimack Valley School District has 100% fresh air, but a lot of districts shut down the dampers, and maybe they have 20% fresh air or what have you. So it's really set at the facility level, and the manufacturer's recommendation.
Yeah, and a lot of them we do recommend that you flush your building, and that is shutting your dampers and it's usually on a Friday after class is out, and you flush the building with fresh air. It gets all the stuff out, the bad stuff out. So this is a picture here. This is the
fins that Marjorie's showing right now is very similar to the room that we're in. So this is where the air is coming into the classroom. Here's another one over here on the right. But if you look way back in the back corner, that's the return. So air is coming in and then being returned. It's being circulated in and out of the room.
And this school did really well. They didn't hang anything on these. A lot of them think they're just air coming in, but if you put it on this one in the back corner, it can hurt your system by having these strings and things sucked up through it.
Yeah, exactly. So we talked a tiny bit about mold and moisture. So I think it's inevitable that you're going to have mold spores in the building. People bring them in every day on
It's
their
everywhere.
clothing, on their shoes, on their body. But what we're trying to get people to understand is that if you see signs of moisture, you need to let someone know immediately. So this photo here, I mean, this could be a condensate pan or even a roof leak. But if you see something like that, that's a report to your facility person right then.
And this is a bigger issue because if you notice, it goes way out here by the lights and everything.
Yeah, it
Not only
does.
that, this is too close to the ceiling
Yeah.
for fire marshal regulations. But
So signs of moisture: roof leaks, plumbing leaks, condensate pans, spilled buckets of water.
yeah, if
you
you're
name
on
it.
a two-story building,
Yeah.
you spill it on one floor, it could go through to the next floor.
Condensate from the windows.
Yep.
Any kind of moisture. Moisture needs to be made dry within 24 hours, or it has the chance to, go into mold. So it's really learning to report it immediately, not to think that moisture is as something that you need to live with. Here's a photo of under a kitchen sink, a plumbing job gone bad. So not only do we have standing water, but we have, I mean, this mold has been here a while. This is significantly
Black mold.
growing. Yeah.
And
So-
you see all this moisture just sitting here, they're just letting it sit.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
No. So I'm not going to say that in my house I inspect under my kitchen and bathroom sink every day, but you need to use your eyes and your nose.
Your nose is going to tell
Your
you.
nose is going to tell you, so that when you smell must, that means the mold spores are blooming.
It's not your husband.
Yep. So you need to follow your eyes and follow your nose. This one here is just another one of roof leaks or condensate pans, but that's not just, that didn't happen just one day. That's a repeated.
Yeah, you can see
Leak.
the different stains on the back corner one. It's been going on quite a long time. And, teachers, you take ownership for your rooms. You need to say something. I mean, the facility manager would rather see a little spot and then instead of a big, huge mess where they could have taken care of it in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about air returns just a little bit. So the air returns are was that the air is leaving the classroom.
Correct.
So we had fresh air coming in, it's circulating the air in the room, and this is where air is being exhausted outside of the classroom. So it's either being exhausted through an air return like we have in this room, or it's being exhausted out the open door. Either way. However, it's leaving the classroom. It can't be blocked.
That is the biggest problem you find.
So blocked shelving too high to the ceiling. I've seen tapestries blocking
The
it.
tapestries,
Yeah.
people put their nice drawings on it, everything. Or
Or maybe an air return is on the bottom side of a wall and somebody's pushed their desk up against it, or a
new ones are the
table.
corner ones they have now, and teachers don't know what they are, so if facility managers can go in there and say, hey, this is what it's for, this is why your children are going to be healthy if you don't block these.
Yeah. So this is, I put this one up here. It is a return, but it's absolutely blocked, filthy. So this grate has not been taken down in 5 years, 10 years, and vacuumed. So if you have this much stuff being pulled up into the exhaust, this is not only a sign of how filthy the classroom is, but what's going on in the ductwork as well.
Yeah, you're not letting your system do the work it's supposed to when you do this. I mean,
This is putting unnecessary strain on the system by
and your
being so blocked.
system's, it's going to be cut short its life.
Oh, here's the same photo again, just showing you where the return is in this classroom. A nice clean return.
Which does not look like the one in this room. as
Yeah,
you-
I can
as you pointed
verify.
out.
Yeah, the spider webs.
And this is a ceiling return up by the ceiling.
Okay.
So we're going to talk a little bit now about the outside contaminants that can come into the building. So we'll talk a little bit more later about inside contaminants. So these are things outside the building that can be pulled into the building through the air intakes. So allergens, carbon monoxide, diesel exhaust, nitrogen oxides, volatile organics, herbicides, and pesticides. This diagram here is from the Tools for Schools. So think of it as your school's in the center here, and then you've got the farm or the factory, the wastewater treatment facility, or the factory or the auto body shop.
Trucks moving, yeah.
Yeah, the highway. We have some schools over at the Seacoast who abut the highway.
Or the Seabrook plant.
Yeah, so these are the things in your neighborhood or community, the air gets pulled into your building. So the first one that we're going to talk about, I'm stuck. Okay, so this just to remind you that we have air intakes from the unit ventilators, or we could have air intakes up here on the ceiling,
on the rooftop.
Or this person here has their windows open. Okay, so we have, we have 3 different ways.
And this could be a huge conference room or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay, so these are some of the things that from outside your building that can be pulled into your classroom. So idling buses and cars, landscaping activities, painting lines, factories, farms, roads, highways, and exhaust from the school itself. And we're going to take these one by one. So the first thing we're going to talk about is pollen, molds, and moisture. All 3 of these things are asthma triggers. So if you have kids in your school or staff members with asthma or anybody with any kind of upper respiratory distress, these things are irritants. So the first one is landscaping. You have the guys out there mowing, bark mulching, raking, all those things ideally should be done off hours.
But if they can't, you can shut your windows, you can turn on your vents, and if they're cleaned properly, the inside's never going to know you're mowing out there, except for the noise. I mean, they're not going to smell the grass, the bark mulch, and everything. If you have a system that's done right, you're not going to know it.
The second one here is shutting your windows on high pollen days. Here in New Hampshire DES, Department of Environmental Services, has a scale where they rate indoor air quality. It's kind of a red to green, and they rate high-risk days here in the state of New Hampshire for those people who have asthma, COPD, any kind of upper respiratory thing. So they let the people know when it's a bad day. And so on these days, you would shut your windows. We talked about this last one here, cleaning debris from in and around the air intakes.
It makes all the difference in the world. You have a system worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, take care of it.
Carbon monoxide. We have not had a carbon monoxide fatality here in the state in a while, but we have carbon monoxide poisonings every year. And primarily these are combustion sources that are not exhaust properly. So we don't, throughout the United States, more than 3/4 of the states have a law that carbon monoxide detectors are required in schools, but in New Hampshire we do not have that law.
Nope. They're required in your homes, some of your homes, but not where your children are.
Yeah, so in new construction and rentals are required. So do we have schools in New Hampshire that have carbon monoxide detectors?
Yep. I would say about 75% have them, yep.
It's a good idea.
Yep. Because they have them down by their heaters.
Yes, yes. So we're going to talk a little bit now about diesel exhaust and school bus idling. So in our webinar in June, we're going to talk extensively about what the laws, federal and New Hampshire state rules are. But we are going to talk here briefly just about this RSA 200:48 air quality in schools. Marjorie, you want to say something about?
Yep. This is a law that came in effect 2 years ago. Oh, that one's going on 3rd year now, actually. But it's a report I send out from my office that all principals need to fill out, or their designee. We really do recommend that all principals fill it out because of the owners of the building, and they need to walk around the building, learn their building, learn what's going on, and it can help the facility manager with this.
So it's an indoor air quality checklist.
It's a checklist.
It's a checklist.
We're working on the new one, so people that are panicked that they haven't got theirs yet, it's okay. We're still working on it. We're doing some updates on it, but it's just to get you to know your building and find out if it's healthy or not, what you can do to actually make it healthy. It tells you what policies you have to have, because there's probably about 8 policies you have to have on hand by law.
And so having a anti-idling policy is one of those policies that is required by law here in the state of New Hampshire. Now, we know from our survey data that many of you have that policy in place, but for those of you that don't, we have sample policies to help you get the ball rolling that we have on our website. We'll show the website at the end, but you can go on there and you can find a sample policy and find a little information about how other schools have implemented it.
And you also can get the signs, anti-idling signs for your buses, your car drop-offs, parent-teacher drop-offs.
Yep, those signs are free
Yep.
in the state of New Hampshire from the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services.
Or you can call my office. Jess was very nice, and she gave me, I don't know if she was nice, but she gave me a stack that I can hand out.
So we have free policies and free signs.
Free people.
Yeah, perfect. So nitrogen oxide, these are contaminants that enter the classroom from combustion sources. So motor vehicle exhaust, burning coal, wood, kerosene, or natural gas. Again, this is another upper respiratory irritant. It's an asthma trigger. I think of this primarily if you had incomplete combustion and it was being re-entrained into the building. So, organics. So these are associated primarily with facility activities.
Correct. Usually done after hours.
So painting, stripping, glues, solvents. I think the art department might have a few, but hopefully not so much this day and age.
And they usually have a good, hopefully a vented room.
Yeah, so I think of organics not only impacting the kids in the classroom and the teachers, but they really impact the workers who are using them during those spring breaks and summer vacation.
Correct.
They are the people who are most heavily exposed. So we really need to bring an awareness there that when the facility or custodial group are using any of these solvents or organics, that they need to have full ventilation and full personal protective exposure equipment while they're using them. So herbicides and pesticides. So I just did a webinar last week with Gary Nielsen from JP Pest, and he provides integrated pest management, bug, insect, and mouse services for a lot of school districts. And when he comes in and sprays or applies an application, they post it so you know where it is.
There's little flags all around
All
everything.
of that can be pulled into the building.
Correct.
So it's important that they do that off hours, and then painting of lines. I mean, that goes with the whole athletic maintenance.
Yeah, if you're going to use any of this, these chemicals, just put it somewhere that someone can wipe their feet off somewhere before they enter the building, because it's on. They'll track it through the whole building. Some rooms have carpet. Most don't, though. But if you bring in the carpet, someone's going to bring it someplace else. So you need to post it around that, this is what we're using.
It's a lot of things to think about with indoor air quality. It really is. So now we've gone through the outdoor pollution that can be pulled into your classroom or into your building. Now let's talk about what inside the building, what we contribute to our own classrooms. Okay? So I put a list here, and we're going to go through most of them. So cleaning chemicals, animal dander, moisture mold, art, paper, dust, the dirt we track into the building, and fabric furniture. So let's start off with chemicals.
One thing, you shouldn't be having this in your classroom.
But everybody does.
And again, you don't put all these chemicals together.
Well, I think a lot of schools now, we found out from our survey data that more and more schools have policies where teachers and faculty staff cannot be bringing in cleaning supplies from home.
And actually, that's one of the required policies. They cannot bring any chemicals from home. It's got to be provided by the school only.
So schools are trying to go more green. I can't be bringing in my wipes, my 409, my Lysol. I need to go to the custodial staff and get something from their approved list. There's nothing good about having this many chemicals under your sink. Plus, you have this many chemicals under your sink, how are you going to be able to see if there's a leak?
And it's a bigger issue if you need that many cleaning supplies.
That's right. You can tell there's been a leak. Look at all the rust here on this shelf. Right down here.
Oh,
So something leaked at some point. But you'd never be able to see the leak just because it was so jam-packed. So animal dander. So our survey data shows us that more and more schools are putting in policies that they're not allowing animals in the classroom.
again, another one
So-
that is one of the required ones too.
Warm-blooded animals, the fuzzy ones, the hamsters, the bunnies, the guinea pigs. I don't think you
cute
see
ones?
cats and dogs. The cute ones, those are the ones that have dander.
Right.
The lizards, the snakes, no dander.
No, but also on this, with the policy on this, there can be exceptions to the rules for dogs, for training dogs, or, help dogs.
Yeah.
But we do suggest in the policy you have that there's no animals in there because you don't know what the kid next to you is allergic to.
Yeah, animal dander is an asthma trigger. Plus, this guinea pig, or maybe he's a hamster. I don't know what he is. This thing here is his cage has shavings, which is a trigger for asthma. Plus, it's hard to clean. So
And if you don't clean them, the smell of anybody had them, you know what that's like.
yes, this here is a dinosaur lesson gone bad. So not only is this have water, it has mold spores. There's nothing good about it, but this is a real New Hampshire classroom.
Yep.
So I hope we're not.
All these pictures are.
Yeah, I hope we're not offending anybody in particular, but this would be an absolute no-no. Plus, it's water and electricity. So,
And even if you don't have four-legged kind, you shouldn't have fish tanks either in your classrooms.
salmonella.
Just
Yeah.
everything, the mold, if they leak, if you're on vacation, you don't know what's happening with them, and someone overfeeds them, it clogs up unless you have someone there every day cleaning it, you shouldn't be having them there.
So, art supplies. So, in the elementary schools, I think that most schools have a handle on green art supplies, healthy art supplies.
Healthier.
But as you get into the upper grades, very often you see the ceramic, the pottery, which is still a lot of chemicals, still a lot of fine dust, a lot of silica. I put dry erase markers in certain paints. So,
People they don't think about this. It's it's great and all, but unless you have, and you can see by this place, it's not too bad. If you look over here, there's not that much dust down on the floor there from them sanding these pottery once they're hardened and everything. So they have pretty good ventilation in here, you can see. But if you don't have that ventilation, this is going in the child's lungs. And if they have asthma, it's going to trigger them.
plus this will be, unless you had walk-off mats from one side of the school to another, this would all be tracked into
In the
another
hallway.
part of the building.
And I'm sure the facility managers
Yeah.
just enjoyed that.
Taking off your wax. Here is, this is kind of a double slide. So this is, I guess what we're trying to show you is that.
Can you tell us what's wrong with this?
Yeah, can you tell us? What I wanted to talk about here is the degradation of paper. So next month's webinar, Sandy Reed talks about how long the shelf life of paper is. But basically, paper breaks down very quickly into cellulose fibers, which is an asthma trigger. Obviously, this one's stacked too close to the ceiling for fire code.
You
and
know
what
paper's
have you.
old when the tape around the edge turns brown,
Yeah.
yellowish.
So there's a lot of things wrong with this picture, but we're here to talk about
Chemicals.
indoor air quality. So if there was a supplier return up here, it's blocked, and this paper is breaking down into cellulose fiber. So we want to talk about dirt being tracked into the building. And if Matt Comey were here, he could tell you exactly about walk-up mats and pounds of dirt being brought in. But basically, the walk-up mat should be at a minimum of 15 feet. And what you want to do is you want to get that dirt off these children or staff's feet before it's brought into the building.
Dirt, snow, anything, stamp off your
Yep.
feet.
So it's not being tracked in. Not only is the dirt putting wear and tear on your flooring, in your wax, your linoleum, but all that dirt becomes airborne and is an upper respiratory irritant.
I think Matt said at one time it's like 150 pounds per square foot is
Yeah.
what is brought into the schools.
We thought Matt would be here today, but he got pulled elsewhere, so
You got me.
here we got Marjorie, but it's all good.
But yeah, I mean, these are very simple. You can put them the size you want, but they're about, what, 3/4 of an inch thick, and kids can stamp their feet out. You pick them up and get that right out of there.
Yeah. So you want to keep all that dirt outside of the classroom. So by the time the person comes in the door, walks to the walk-off mats, gets to the hallway, gets to the classroom, you're leaving all at the front door. Let it be kept there.
And if you can do it outside and inside, it'd be great.
This photo is a double photo, so we're going to talk about two things here. So dust mites. Dust mites are in all fabric. So we understand that teachers want to bring fabric in because they want to create a very homey environment. But between the dust mites here and potential bed bugs, which is not really indoor air quality, but just potential bed bugs, plus some of this fabric has fire retardant on it.
Right, and the new law is no furniture can be brought into a school unless it's fire retardant.
Yeah.
So, and that's from the fire marshal's office. So if they come in, they will literally look at you and have you pick it up and throw it outside.
So if you were to bring fabric things into your classroom, throw pillows, stuffed animals, curtains, they need to be taken down and laundered regularly just to get the dust off them. It's really about dust and dust mites.
And you also got to remember, I mean, if you have a kid that's home and has dogs and cats, they come and they hug in the pillow, it's being transferred to the pillow, and then the next kid comes along, is allergic to something, this has trapped it, so this kid is now could possibly have an allergic reaction because what is trapped on this pillow. Your best bet is not to have them.
Yeah. You know, I look at a photo like this, Marjorie, and I think, how could you expect the custodian to come in and do a good job? He could hardly maneuver a vacuum cleaner around here.
There's no way.
There's not a single smooth surface for a custodian to clean. If you look up in the background, look at that unit ventilator. You can hardly see it. It's so blocked.
How is that working properly? It's not. I mean, the school, actually the taxpayers are paying for something here. That's your dollars too, because it's part of where your tax is going. You know, you want to make sure your school's healthy. And you get the money out of this equipment.
Exactly.
Oh,
So,
here we go.
we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to kind of recap.
Raise
about,
your hand if you can figure out the issue here.
We're going to talk a little bit about classroom setup. So we touched on blocking intakes. We touched on blocking returns. We didn't talk at all about sunlight. So there are people like me who would love to have a desk that sits in a sunbeam every day of my life. But there are just as many people who would not be able to work with that kind of heat.
Yep, it's too much.
So you can't expect a teacher to teach or a child to learn if they're sitting in full sunlight, 80-degree heat in, May, June. So
Also right here, what's it blocking?
yeah, Marjorie's pointing out this unit ventilator. So
this little beige thing right there, that's a unit ventilator, and they have everything nicely stacked, but why have one in there if you're not going to use it for its proper use?
So the air intake for this unit ventilator is somewhere down here behind these milk crates.
And then the top, where they put a board, is where it's coming out.
This is where the air is coming out, right here, but you can't.
It's being blocked
It's
by
so
the parts.
blocked. It's just so blocked. So there's numerous things wrong there
And
with
the
how this
quilt.
classroom is set up. Here's another unit ventilator that the teacher is just using as a bookshelf.
And
So
this is either trash, recycled stuff,
we're
what
not
Sandy will
sure.
go into.
Yeah. The next seminar we'll talk a lot more about organization, but really we're here to show that this is blocking how the classroom breathes.
Yeah, you get all this paper here and just collects dust, because we all know that you're not going to go over there and dust that. You're just piling on top of it and piling on top. You put something on top of it, plus the dust comes off it.
It's not even feasible that a custodial staff member would come in and be able to clean this. There's not a smooth surface there for them to clean.
Not going to touch it.
If you had this much stuff stacked on top of this unit ventilator, how much do you think has fallen down through those grates and is melting on the heating fins?
Now, what crayons are in that one?
Oh, I put this slide in so we could talk a little bit about temperatures, blocking the sun. Not everybody has the ability to block the sun. I think the next slide shows some shades that some school district had, which I really liked. I don't know that in New England where our sun doesn't get as high in May and June, but if you're down south, I mean, the sun is a real issue for these schools. So I just wanted to talk about, it's comfort. It's
Yes.
classroom comfort.
We all know you learn better.
So we're going to recap a little bit here. So we talked about what determines air quality. We talked about where the air comes from in your classroom, and we talked a little bit about classroom setup. So those are the three things that we wanted to touch on today. I wanted to re-emphasize that our next one, May 7th, is the Laconia School District, Janet Brow and her staff, and Sandy Reed from the Organization Guru. They are going to go much more in depth into some of the things that we saw on these slides today. So we just talked about how the classroom breathes. They're going to go into organization. They're going to touch on hoarding, behavior change, committees, competition between teachers.
And just a little organization, it helps make the classroom breathe.
Yeah.
And just a little bit. I mean, Janet Brow, when you see her picture, she's before and after.
I was going to say, I've
You're
seen some of
gonna
her before and after
You're
pictures.
going to
Amazing.
sit there and go, where's
Yes.
Waldo in some of the pictures, but
And some of the things that we'll teach you in the May 7th one are going to be very easy things that you can implement. Not everybody needs to bring in a professional organizer. They're very simple things. Then again, starting June 4th, we're going to be using the US EPA, the Department of Ed, and the Hampshire Coalition for Occupational Safety and Health, and we're going to touch upon the state and the federal laws. We're going to actually open the lid of the Tools for Schools for kit, and we're going to start looking at it in very small pieces. I think the webinars that we've done over the decades, you go through the Tools for Schools thing in one or two webinars. We are going to break it down in so small pieces that we want to help schools have successes.
right. And we're not saying when we open it, do the whole kit. If
No.
you just take one section of it and do it,
Yep.
you'll be surprised.
So I guess if I were to ask you for anything, is between now and June to think about who your IAQ coordinator might be. Now, some of your schools already have wellness committees, recycling committees. Every school has a leader. Capitalize on that. I wouldn't worry that you might think it's the right person or the wrong person, but if you
There
get
is
a
no right or
person who's a
wrong.
born leader,
Get them on board.
get them on board.
Also, if you don't have the actual Tools for School kit, you have just the disc. You can go on the disc and download the stuff, but I do have some at my office. I would love to get rid of, and I know Laura here said she's got some cases for me. So if anybody needs them, you're more than welcome to give me a holler, and I will get them out to you.
So I put three links up here for everybody. The first one is the New Hampshire Partners for Healthy Schools, our website, and it has all the policies. The sample policies are on there. The webinars, when we do a webinar, that we archive it up there so you can get the link. It has all sorts of resources at EPA,
All the partners,
all the partners.
their emails, everything.
The second one here I put is the US EPA Tools for Schools. So if you can go right on there and you can download the kit yourself. If
Well,
you
everybody
didn't-
has a disc. By law, they have to have.
the physical disc.
They have the physical thing, and they can just put that in and download that too. So sometimes they want the magic little wheel that comes in it.
I think
You don't need the tape, though, that comes with it. It does have a VHS tape with it.
So the last website here is the new Asthma Now New Hampshire. It's put on by the Asthma Collaborative, and it has a Healthy Schools page on that website. So you can find a lot of, you can find the archived webinars, you can find the Tools for Schools, you can find the New Hampshire Partners for Healthy Schools, the 3 fact sheets that we put together, they're all on there.
And this is great. I mean, after you can go back and digest this and all, and you might, have some other people, hey, you should go on there and look at the site. It's good. They have webinars and all. It gives other people to look at it and understand what it's about.
So, I want to thank everybody for taking time today. It certainly is important that you've stepped up to the plate to participate in this. Do we have a question here?
No, we just, thanks to the asthma website is wrong. It should be asthma asthmanow.nh.net.
Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. You're right. It is www.asthmanow.nh.net.
Thank you.
That must be Heidi.
No, it's Sue.
It's Sue. asthmanow.nh.net.
And
Thank you, Sue.
I'm going to send that link out to everyone, and in your chat feature on that box on the right-hand side, you'll have that link.
Perfect. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and
So I put both my and Marjorie's contact information on this last slide. She or I would be more than happy to help you get linked into the New Hampshire Partners for Healthy Schools, help you understand how to register for any of our webinars, how to get the some of the sample policies, the anti-idling signs that are free from New Hampshire DES.
also we meet next Tuesday.
We meet Tuesday
We'll be here at
morning
9.
here at the local government center in Concord, New Hampshire.
So you just drop one of us an email saying you want to come, and we'll be more than welcome to have you come.
We would.
Please come.
So
I wanted to just share with everyone really quickly the survey link or the evaluation link. I'm gonna send it right now through the chat feature. So on that box on your right-hand side, you should see a little icon blinking. That's going to be the link to complete the survey. It's a brief survey about how we did today.
Yeah.
And I will also email that after the session with a link to the recording when that's available. So it'll probably be on Friday, but I'll email that link out again as well.
So share this webinar with your friends, your coworkers, or your colleagues at other schools. And don't hesitate to call us if you have questions. Again, we appreciate all of you being here today. We look forward to seeing you on May 7th.
We'll be back.
And we'll continue this dialogue.
And if you have any suggestions, please just drop us a line.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.